Once upon a time, in a cozy little village by a calm river, there lived a young man named Yuto. Yuto was smart and hardworking, but he always found himself overwhelmed by life's challenges and problems. Every morning, he would wake up feeling anxious and unsure about how to overcome his troubles. One day, while strolling through the village, Yuto heard about a wise and enlightened teacher who lived in a faraway temple. This Zen master was renowned for his deep wisdom and ability to help people with their problems. Intrigued by the idea, Yuto decided to set off on a journey to seek the master's guidance. After a tiring and challenging journey, Yuto eventually reached the temple. Upon entering, he spotted the Zen master sitting peacefully, his eyes emanating a deep sense of calmness. Yuto approached the master and courteously bowed before him. "Master," Yuto spoke, "I have come to seek your guidance. I am overwhelmed with problems and obstacles, and I yearn to discover a way to overcome them." The Zen master gazed at Yuto with compassionate eyes and softly smiled. "Yuto, my dear child, I can assist you in resolving 99% of your problems within just one day," he replied. Yuto's eyes grew wide with hope. "Hey, master, can you teach me how?" he begged. The Zen master motioned for Yuto to sit next to him. "All right, first things first. Close your eyes and take a deep breath," he said. Yuto did as the master told him and closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. As he let it out, a wave of tranquility washed over him. "Now, Yuto," the Zen master went on, "just picture all your problems and worries as heavy stones dragging you down. Take a moment to envision each stone individually and imagine yourself releasing them into the river of life." Yuto followed the master's guidance and started visualizing his problems as stones, mentally letting go of each one. As he released each stone, he felt a wave of relief and a newfound sense of lightness within himself. As Yuto released his worries, the Zen master gently said, "Remember, my dear, the real essence of problems resides in our minds. It's not the external situations that bother us, but rather our thoughts and interpretations of them." Yuto nodded, starting to grasp the wisdom behind the master's message. He came to realize that changing his perspective was the key to resolving his issues. The Zen master said, "Hey, Yuto, open your eyes and take a look. What do you see?" Yuto opened his eyes and glanced around. He noticed the peaceful surroundings of the temple, the calm flow of the river, and the vibrant greenery that surrounded them. It filled him with a feeling of amazement and curiosity. "Master, I see the beauty of nature," Yuto responded with a newfound tranquility in his voice. The Zen master had a smile on his face. "You know, Yuto, when we release our problems and start appreciating the beauty and miracles that surround us, we come to understand that our troubles are just a tiny piece of the big picture called life." Throughout the day, the Zen master led Yuto in different meditation techniques and shared some profound lessons about suffering and how perception can be empowering. Yuto absorbed all the wisdom and experienced a significant change within himself. As the sun started to go down, Yuto thanked the Zen master sincerely. "Hey, master, I really appreciate your help today. You've taught me a whole new way of looking at and dealing with my issues." The Zen master grinned warmly. "Yuto, always remember that life is full of ups and downs. By staying calm and having a positive outlook, you can tackle 99% of your problems head-on. The remaining 1% is just a test of your patience and strength, which will eventually make you wiser and stronger." With a newfound understanding, Yuto said goodbye to the Zen master and went back to his village. From that day on, he put into practice the teachings and techniques he had learned from the master. Whenever Yuto encountered a problem, he would take a moment to close his eyes, let go of his worries, and open his eyes to the beauty and possibilities that surrounded him. With a positive mindset and a calm heart, he tackled his problems with renewed energy and determination. Gradually but surely, Yuto discovered that he was indeed capable of solving most of his problems. His confidence grew, becoming an inspiration to those around him who were also facing life's challenges. As time passed, Yuto became renowned as a problem solver and a source of inspiration in the village. People sought his advice, and he generously shared the wisdom he had acquired from the Zen Master. Consequently, Yudo's transformation story spread far and wide, reminding individuals of the strength of having a positive perspective and the ability to overcome their problems. Not only did Yudo's journey to meet the Zen Master change his own life, but it also had a ripple effect by positively impacting many others. Through the timeless wisdom of the Zen Master and Yudo's sincere efforts, the village thrived, and its residents found comfort and resilience when faced with life's challenges. They realized that they possessed the power to solve 99% of their problems in just one day. From this story, you can learn several moral lessons. 1. The power of perception. One of the main lessons from the story is that how we see things influences our reality. While there may be difficulties and obstacles, it's our perception and attitude towards them that ultimately affects how they affect us. By changing our point of view and emphasizing the positive aspects of life, we can change our experience and discover ways to solve our problems. 2. Letting go of worries. The story really drives home the message that it's crucial to release the worries and burdens that drag us down. Oftentimes, our problems seem much bigger in our heads, leading to unnecessary stress and anxiety. But when we visualize and let go of these concerns, we make room for clarity and discover a peaceful state within ourselves. 3. Finding inner peace. The story shows us the importance of having inner peace when facing challenges. By practicing meditation and mindfulness, we can develop a calm and balanced mindset. With this peaceful state, we can tackle our problems with clarity and strength. 4. The role of self-reflection. Yudo's adventure with the Zen Master shows how important it is to take a moment for self-reflection. When we pause to think about our problems, thoughts, and emotions, we can gain valuable insights and understanding. This process helps us uncover the underlying reasons behind our issues and gives us the confidence to discover suitable solutions. 5. Sharing wisdom and helping others. Yudo's transformation motivates him to pass on the wisdom he has acquired to fellow villagers. This valuable lesson serves as a reminder of how crucial it is to assist others on their own paths. When we share our knowledge, experiences, and insights, we actively contribute to the overall development and welfare of our communities. In a nutshell, the story teaches us the importance of looking at things from different angles, not stressing over things we can't control, finding inner calmness, reflecting on ourselves, lending a hand to others, bouncing back from tough situations, and understanding how we are all connected. It motivates us to face life's obstacles with optimism and realize that we have the ability to overcome most of our issues by embracing wisdom and nurturing a peaceful mindset. As we continue to explore these timeless teachings and apply them in our daily lives, I invite you to join our community at Zenful Living on YouTube. By subscribing to our channel, you'll have access to more enriching content that aims to guide you on a path of personal growth and mindfulness. Your engagement matters to us, so don't hesitate to like and comment on our videos, sharing your insights, experiences, and how these teachings have influenced your life. Together, let's cultivate a space of learning, sharing, and growth. Embrace this journey with us at Zenful Living, where every step towards mindfulness is a step towards a more fulfilled and peaceful life. Subscribe now, and let's continue this journey of discovery and transformation together.